to do all these things, in a span of 24 hours that we all have at the same time. So when I requested him to come and address us, amongst other things, the other thing that you also should know from the point of view of CII is he's a past president of CII. Mr. Munjal, without much delay, I would request you to address us on the theme of the topic, and then we can take a couple of questions after that. Thank you so much. And I apologize for this delay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Guru. There are two ways we can do this. I can either give a speech and then have an interaction with you, or I could start by asking you what your concerns are. What is bothering you right now? What are the issues on top of your mind about what's going on in India, in the world? And I'm happy to take questions or comments on any subject. We can talk about politics, governance, business, entrepreneurship, geopolitics, because I think it is important for us to actually learn from all of you. You truly are our future. And from the age that I can see in this room, the future is here right now. I sometimes think that we are actually fortunate to be alive at this point in history in a country like India, which is, it's not a nation, it's actually a continent. We are a civilization that's 8,000 plus years old. We're a nation which has never in this 8,000-year history attacked another nation. But we have a unique ability. We've, of course, been attacked many, many times. Some say hundreds and some say thousands in this period. We have the ability to absorb and assimilate any influence that we see from the outside, which is why our food, our music, our clothes, our design, even our technology is an amalgam of not just what is Indian, but what is the best of many parts of the world. Across India, so it's always difficult to define India as a single nation, because we are more complex than most nations. We are the only nation which has more than 4 official languages. Can anyone guess how many languages there are in India which are officially recognized? 17. It's 18. We have 18 languages officially recognized by the government of India. This is when there is no other country which has more than 4. And the one which has 4 is, by the way, Switzerland. And every other country has either 1 or 2. We have 5,000 dialects spoken across the nation, which is more than 3 continents put together. Across India, if you travel across India, people eat different food, wear different clothes, speak different languages, even look different. So for many of us, I see people from different parts, what I presume is different parts of India here.
25 states.
25 states here?
Yes.
So we are not all of India here right now?
No, we have 4 states shared.
Right. So sometimes the only common language we have is English. It's interesting. It's not any of the Indian languages which is common across India. We, of course, tried to make Hindi our national language, but we've been partially successful. Frankly, it doesn't matter. India's diversity, India as a nation of extremes, has this as its biggest challenge and also its biggest asset. It is our biggest strength. Our ability to deal with the unpredictable, with the unknown, because we've grown up in an environment of shortages. Well, not many of you, but when we grew up into the environment of shortages for the last 200 plus years in India, that actually gives us a unique ability of multitasking, which, by the way, is uniquely Indian. We, of course, like to think we are unique in all ways, which we are not. Because if you see what we are doing currently as a nation, and I'm not talking of the economic model of India, We're trying to follow some other countries 5, 10, 15, 20 years behind. So if you're smart, we will not just pick up what worked. More importantly, we will learn what did not work. Of course, it's important to make your own mistakes in life, but it's smart to learn from other people's mistakes. You don't have to make them all yourselves. It sometimes becomes expensive. So I'm going to stop here and ask you to tell me your concerns. So I'll try and address those concerns as I address all of you. So do we have a mic or something which can go around? We do?
Yeah, there are runners.
So please feel free to ask any question of any kind. Can we get a mic there, please? Is that okay to change the format? Is it okay to change your format?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right. All right.
We have Divakar from Sikkim. I think who's already.
Okay.
Manu, do you want
Sure.
to pass the mic?
Why don't you shout before the mic comes?
Yeah.
I think the mic could do better. Thank you, sir. Pleasure to see you in person. And the Humme hero ad is wonderful on television. My question is, we didn't get much time to interact with Satyarthi sir, so this is a follow-up of whatever he said. Maybe you'd like to provide some perspective.
I was actually
on this.
tempted to speak on the subjects he was raising.
Yes.
Some of them are very, very important, critical subjects, yeah.
Yes, sir. So he talked about 3 Ds, and the sequence was dream, discover, and do. My question is, as an entrepreneur, is it the other way around also, many a times? Is it do, discover, and dream,
Okay.
and do again? Yeah, as you rightly said. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take them all. I'll take them all in one shot.
So we'll take 2 more questions and then.
No, we just keep going. I have no problem.
Anybody else? Who else has questions to ask? Yes, please.
There's one here and one here. There's one with the mic. Go ahead.
Uday. Yeah.
So purely from the concern perspective and the impact perspective, we spoke about the glory of India, the past, present, and the ability to assimilate,
Just hold the mic close to your. Yes.
assimilate everything, and still grow as a mother. Now, the role of media here. Can we not have the media transgress this message across the length and breadth of the country? A country which had Aryabhatta to Ayurveda, Sushruta to Kama Sutra, to whatever latest in technology and space technology we have. Can we not percolate this message down in terms of building the national self-esteem, and rather not get carried away by the political agendas and the social economic agendas and whatever the media is driven by? Thanks.
Is it? Yeah.
Hello. As an industry person, I want your thought process on what is going to be the sustainability of the planet. How industry is going to accommodate sustainability of the planet.
Raghu, you had a question? There's a mic behind you.
Hi, my question, I'm a citizen of Delhi, and I think my biggest pain area every morning we wake up is about the pollution and the air that we breathe. I think you're also, like me, fellow citizen, and obviously we all are very concerned. We all have children, we all have old grandparents and parents. So that is something that pains me a lot, and obviously as a fellow citizen, but also as a leading corporate, what do you think that should be done, and how can we get our government to do something more on that? Thank you.
All right.
I think the last question is at the far end. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, morning, sir. It's not much of a question as an experience that I face every day as an entrepreneur. So once I'm getting my hands dirty now and working in the field as an entrepreneur after leaving my corporate job, the biggest frustrating point is in the age where everybody is talking about ease of doing business. One biggest frustration that I face each and every day or a lot is it is so easy in our country, or at least in a place where I work, to stop any project. You can just walk into a Tehsildar, an SDM, or even High Court and make an allegation without any proof, and you can get a stay order, and then the entire liability lies on the entrepreneur or the businessman to get it vacated.
All right, I got it. Okay, let me try and address these, and then we come around. Okay. Mark Twain made a very interesting statement once. He said, India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive material in this history of man are treasured up in India. So we're actually an interesting country. To the comment that you made about India's history, we are a nation which in many ways actually taught the world how to do business. If you go back in history, a lot of the science, technology or technological developments and discoveries came from India. Navigation started in India. Surgery, including, by the way, cosmetic surgery, started in India. But this is centuries, some of it millennia ago. The button was discovered in India. It's not a very popularly known fact. The button was first designed in India. Pi, it's now acknowledged, was not actually discovered in the in Europe. It actually came from India a few hundred years before it was actually discovered in Europe. And there are a whole host of other things that have been done here. The Mahabharata, interestingly, contains explanations and descriptions of some components which go into making the most complex spacecrafts today. So people have been asking this question, was there a level of science and technology here which was way advanced from where we are today? Is that possible? It's a question we need to ask ourselves, but it's certain. And even in recent history, if you go back only 260 years, this is recorded history. At the end of the Mughal period, when the British came to India, India as a single nation was doing 21% world trade, one nation. Great Britain was doing 1% world trade. They came in here, and over a 200+ year period, when they left in 1947, they went back, and Great Britain was doing 21% world trade. And what do you think was left behind? We had 1% world trade. So it was actually a complete economic subjugation, which is what they did. All the value addition went out of India into the UK. I can tell you about our business, where we started with bicycles. Even bicycle parts, like chains, hubs, freewheels, rims, tires, would all come from the big old English brands, Philips, Raleigh, Dunlop, used to be imported into India. They did leave 2 or 3 interesting things behind. They connected India as a single nation. They helped us build the rail network, which we are now talking of modernizing after 60+ years. They left the English language, of course, and they left behind a bureaucracy. And we in India made a fine art of this bureaucracy ourselves. And 2 of you raised this question of either corruption or red tape. Now, the problem with bureaucracy is we inherited a bureaucracy which was designed by a small minority trying to run a country which was completely against them. So all our rules, laws, regulations are based on complete mistrust of the population of India. Instead of completely changing this, we just went ahead and used the exact same system. So if you see the changes which are now being made currently with this new government is doing some very interesting work because we've been pushing for some of these things. I've myself been on a few government committees over the last 20 or 30 years. And one comment I have consistently made every single time is all our systems must be based on trust of the citizen. The average Indian is not a crook. Given the environment, they will do the right thing. They will do the right thing by themselves, by their families, by their businesses, and by the society. And they do. So if we can simplify our rules, make regulations where the user is involved in designing the regulation, make them easy to understand, simple to follow, but then have consequence management built in. If somebody makes a mistake, please help him or her correct that mistake. If there is malintent, you need to crack down hard and you need to crack down fast. You must be impartial and completely objective, regardless of whose cousin, nephew, niece, or uncle that individual is. If you can do that, actually life can become a lot easier because entrepreneurship is not new here. It's actually in our DNA. It drives a lot of the behavior that we do every day, comes from a genetic information which is embedded in our minds, our brains, and our DNA. They say bureaucrats are now being very supportive. They're cutting red tape. The problem is they're cutting red tape along the length. So it's still red tape. You have more streams of this running around. In the last 10 years, while we simplified many things, we also tried in almost a sneaky manner to bring back government control into private enterprise. A lot more government control than there was 15 years ago. Because from the 1991, when we started to change what we call the current economic reform, incidentally, it was not started in 91. Some of you may be aware of this. It actually started when Rajiv Gandhi became the Prime Minister. He had a very interesting attitude. He said, I can't understand why a country like India, which has so many young, smart people, we are so good at mathematics, we have an ability to deal with people, why we should not be doing much more business with the world, why we should not be using much more technology, and why we should not empower the young in India much more. Interestingly, this is the engine from which we've driven the benefit over the last 20 years. So he started to get industry, and CII was very actively involved in this. A lot of the reform was actually written up in CII's office in those days. And he said, you guys are seen as an association which is normally able to see beyond its nose, because the normal traditional thing of industry associations in the old days was to only go and crib to the government, ask for support, ask for subsidies. If you called a minister or bureaucrat for a meeting, you'd spend the first 10 minutes only praising them and putting garlands on them. And CII was seen as a breath of fresh air because they would invite them and say, Mr. Minister, please start to talk. And that was it. And CII went to the government and said, we think it's a good idea for us to work together to create a mission where we can take all of India forward. It is in our interest, because we used to work at odds. It was almost seen as opposing forces in India, government and industry, and civil society, and the general population at large. Each one was pulling in a different direction. And I think they were quite surprised, but they liked the idea because nobody had spoken to them as an equal. And in 1991, the reason we were able to implement a lot of the reforms so quickly was because a lot of this was actually written up earlier. And we had, interestingly, written things like this dream, discover, do. We had used different words, actually. We had said, Indians are naturally entrepreneurial. We should give them freedom to operate, create an environment which is facilitating. No matter what walk of life you choose, you should have the ability to make your choices and then push as far as you want to go. And by the way, there is no correct method of doing this, whether it's dream, discover, do, or do, dream, discover, or discover, dream, and do, or discover, do, and dream. As long as your mind and your heart is in the same direction, your ability to achieve is dramatically higher. Which is why they say, if you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life. If you're passionate about what you're doing, and there are two ways of doing this, by the way, and these are two choices that we have. One of the things we have to realize is all of us need to make choices all the time, every day. So either you have the freedom, the ability, and the choice to pick something that you love as your profession, as a job, or something you create. Or please start loving what you're doing. That's actually easier. It's not always easy to be able to get the choice to do what you like. But if you start liking what you do, the impact is exactly the same. So what we tell people in our companies is, and we've done this now for a while, and I believe one of the reasons, Guru, to your point, that people or the organization has grown is because a lot of people believe they're working for themselves. This is their organization, and they are driven by themselves to do better for themselves. We realized a long time ago, none of us has a monopoly on good ideas. It can come from any place. So we do two things extensively. One is we've partnered extensively. The Honda partnership you mentioned, of course, became much more public, but we've had many, many partnerships with companies both in India and outside. And interestingly, in most cases, both partners have gained significantly from this. The second thing we've done is we've encouraged people within the companies to experiment all the time, saying, please try and do more, or try and do better, whatever you're doing this year relative to last year. And that does something very interesting. So what we do is, on fixed intervals, people who have achieved something are called up and recognized, and their achievements are explained to everybody. But those who actually tried and failed are called up and given the exact same recognition with no difference whatsoever. What you are recognizing and applauding is the attempt that they make to make things better. The outcome is not in our hands. It's never in our hands. But if you experiment, and we do this knowing fully well that when you experiment, many things are going to blow up in your face. Not everything will work. So which is why sometimes this issue that you brought up about the media is actually a little bit of sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's almost a shame that the media worldwide, and this is not only unique to India, we see it more in India because of higher concentration. We have the largest number of 24-hour English news channels in the world today. There's no other country which comes even close to what we are doing here. And it's not just English, it's news channels. So because of this sheer competitive pressure, this belief that only sensational stuff sells and negative stories sell is what drives them to look at only those things. A good story, frankly, is no story as far as the media is concerned. It almost seems so, which is why sometimes encouraging to see when people like NDTV and some of the others have launched some campaigns which are very, very positive, which are very forward-looking, whether it's on education or it's saving the tigers or it's cleanliness. They've launched a whole lot of things. And this is one thing, by the way, I like about this current government of ours. They are able to take simple things and turn them into missions, into people's movements. It's not new to talk about sanitation. It's not new to talk about corruption or stuff which is lying around in the dirt around the roads. Many of us have talked about this for a long time. Some of us have done something about it, but most of us have not. Here comes an individual. He says, by the way, I would like this country to run in a manner where we actually have a pride in all aspects of being Indian. Not only of being able to launch a satellite, which, by the way, is fantastic. We today are launching satellites, I'm forgetting the exact number, it was 14 countries. I think it's up to 20 plus countries now. And we do it as efficiently as them at a fraction of the cost. So it is actually truly something we need to be proud of. But we need to be proud of all things that we do. Our attitude, what we were talking about in the earlier session, cleanliness, pollution. So there was an interesting study done recently which showed that 62% of the air pollutants in Delhi are not coming from factories, they're not coming from homes, they're not coming from municipal waste, they're not coming from automotives. It's coming from loose soil lying around, dust lying around all over the place. What do we all do? We take a broom, clean our homes, and just throw the dirt outside. Next time the wind blows, it comes back in, and of course it blows up all over the place as well. So what are we doing? We're actually not making it better, we're making it worse for ourselves, our children, our parents or grandparents, and for society at large. This is not the government's responsibility, this is everybody's responsibility, because we're all affected by this. And the solution, by the way, is not difficult either. I'm sure all of you travel across other parts of the world. So if you travel to Singapore or to any parts of Germany or France or UK or US, or interestingly, even go to the desert, go to Dubai, go to Abu Dhabi, do you see loose soil lying any place? It's not there. If it's not there, it's not going to fly around. So what do you see? You either see a road or a hard surface, concrete or whatever else, or you see greens. That's it. And what's so difficult in doing this here? I remember at one time, I used to live in Ludhiana, that's a couple of decades ago. We started a discussion with the local corporation as to how Ludhiana, by the way, if those of you who have gone to Ludhiana would know, it's a very interesting city. It has amongst the highest per capita incomes in India, but amongst the lousiest infrastructure, urban infrastructure. And so we said, this is not okay. How can we living in this environment? We need to clean up this place. We need to improve this place. So he was quite welcoming. He said, okay, what suggestions do you have? I said, I'd like you to call your team and I'd like to talk to your team directly, not through you, but I'd like to explain to them what I think is doable. So we discussed a whole host of issues. There were no traffic lights in those days in Ludhiana. So we said we need to create better systems for traffic, we need to create better road conditions. But after the long list, I said the most important thing that you can do is actually green Ludhiana. And I said we should try and plant, I'm trying to remember the number now, 25 million trees. Yeah, that's what the number was, I think. It was either 20 million or 25 million. So the guy from the horticulture department, he was sitting there, saying, Sir, shayad tonu galti lag gayi hai. So he's saying, maybe I didn't understand the number I was saying. So I said, no, why do you think I made a mistake? He's saying, do you realize what number you're saying? I said, of course I do. He said, where will we plant them? I said, any place you find a 2 feet by 2 feet space, please plant them. It's so simple. What is the land mass of Ludhiana? Please bring a master plan. So we brought a master plan. It was very interesting. The master plan showed 650 parks in Ludhiana. How many do you think were existing on the ground that time? Any guess? There were 12. From 650, they'd all either been encroached, taken over, destroyed, whatever. There were just 12 of them. So the first thing you have to do is go back, give the parks back to the people. And interestingly, these parks were officially on the record were being maintained. There were people working on them, people who were being paid. They were being paid salaries. So we did something interesting. We said, wherever there's a community around this park, give the park to the community. Let them maintain it. And you, Mr. Government, have to pay the same cost to them as you're paying to your employees. Don't pay a penny more. Actually, he said, can I pay less? So we said, let's try with that. They paid 80% of what they would have paid if they were maintaining or supposedly maintaining it themselves. And guess what? At the end of the year, we had a competition, and it was unbelievable how these parks all turned green. People built, cycling tracks, walking paths. Then we said in 2 or 3 years' time, we should also have a flower competition here. So if you allow the user to get involved, the ability to change the environment is dramatic. And that is why it's important. Each one of us needs to take ownership of this. About 40 years ago, how much time do I have, Guru?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Yes. Okay. So about 40 years ago, in Hero Cycles, this was before we put up the two-wheeler business, we said we use acid in the effluent treatment, in the plating plants, in the painting plants. There's so many pollutants. We need to do something about this. By the way, I'm talking about 40 years ago. It was not fashionable. It was not mandatory. There was no regulation, actually, around effluent treatment plants in those days. And there was no design available. So we called a guy from Chandigarh, and we engineered a plant, and then put it there to say that this is how you need to treat what you're discharging. When we started what was then called Hero Honda, the plant, the first thing we said is this plant will start production only after the chairman consumes a glass from the discharge of the effluent treatment plant. Only then this will go into production. And we did. In many of our new plants now, the main power supply actually comes through the effluent treatment plants. So only when all these plants are working will the plant work, otherwise it will not work. In the new plant that we've set up recently, Neemrana, in fact, the one before this we set up was in Haridwar. We set up the world's largest green roof. Some of our own people got upset, saying, why are you spending so much more? Because you need to create a structure which has a higher load-bearing capacity. And now what's happened over now it's about 5-6 years now, interestingly what's happened is that the temperature inside that plant is 5 to 6 degrees cooler in summer and warmer in winters. Wow. So energy requirement to constantly heat and cool that plant has gone down dramatically. So plus you have a green roof, which is improving the environment around you all the time. In the new plant in Neemrana, we've called it the garden factory. The entire truss structure of this factory is inverted. The trusses are outside. And that's being used as a frame structure to install solar panels. We're generating 2 megawatts of power from the roof of the building. And the space below that, the empty space below that, is being used through hydroponics to grow plants and food. So all the, and vegetables and plants. So all the foods that's cooked in the cafeterias and the canteen is grown on top of the building. So we are attempting in many ways to see how we can actually make it better for ourselves. We are doing it for a selfish reason. It's better for us, it's better for our children, it's better for our people. But I wish this is something which would spread and more of us would look at it as a personal need. We do the same thing. Somebody asked me, why do you guys run all these schools and colleges and hospitals? Frankly, we do it for a selfish reason. We actually enjoy it. We think it has a tremendous benefit to society. And that flows back to each one of us. We now have 30,000 plus kids studying in our high schools, including some schools where we encourage children of industrial workers to come in and study. And I'm talking about industrial workers, those who do not normally bring their families. They migrate because Punjab and Haryana, et cetera, has a lot of labor which comes from UP and Bihar. And they normally leave their families behind. We've been encouraging them to bring their children with them, bring their parents with them. If you said through our hospitals, we can help you to take care of your parents' health. And through our schools, we can help you educate your children. We don't do any of this free, by the way. Even those who cannot afford it have to pay 10 rupees. It's a marginal charge, but everybody needs to feel a sense of pride that they are buying something for themselves. They are paying for their kids' education. They're very moderately priced, but nobody inside either the hospital, where we do give lots of discounts. We have one of our doctors here. He will confirm that we do a lot of subsidized or free treatment, but nobody inside, no doctor, no nurse knows who's a full fee-paying patient, who's subsidized and who's free. So that their treatment and the quality of service that they get is absolutely the same, regardless of what the person has paid. We do the same thing in our schools. And we've now set up a university. Some of you may have heard of this. It's called the BML Munjal University, which is on the Delhi-Jaipur highway. We have introduced 100 innovations in that university from any university in the world. The idea is to build something completely world-class. And we are saying, we're not trying to compare with what's going on here. Why can we not try and attempt to be the best in the world? What stops us? Truly, Indians are very, very smart people. They've shown this all over the world. They've done exceedingly well as technologists, as scientists, as doctors, as lawyers, as accountants. Why can we not do this in India? So we have to make that change for ourselves and those around us. We're attempting this in a very interesting, unusual industry. The real estate industry in India is considered an abused industry because they say the consumer for the real estate is one of the most abused consumers. As a customer, when you book something, in many companies, you have no idea what you will actually get back, when you will get delivered, whether the apartment will be the same one that is promised or not. We are now attempting to do this in something that we've created new. It's a new business model which we are calling Hero Homes. Interestingly, we're launching the first one in our hometown in Ludhiana. And again, in that project, again, we have about 100 innovations in design, in technology, hopefully in the build, and utility and functionality. It's a business we've designed with the consumer at the center of the business, exactly the same way we run our two-wheeler business, and exactly the same way we used to run our bicycle business or the way it got created. Little things. 90% people that I know of in India keep some kind of a murti or a gutka or a Bible for prayer. But unless you're buying a 5 crore apartment, you don't get a place where you can house these. I'm talking about apartments now. Most Indians wash their clothes and don't use dryers. They dry them, air dry them. Where do you think they put them? On balconies, outside. Why can we not design a space So I'm talking about these little things. So if we are watchful, if we are thoughtful of little things around us in our lives every day, we can make an absolute dramatic change to our own lives and of those around us. So YI does a fantastic job. I'm absolutely delighted to come and talk to a group of YI anytime and every time I've come. I've actually enjoyed this. I would have liked a session which is actually completely interactive. Maybe some other time we should do one which is only interactive, 100%.
We can do it
So-
at one of your plans, and we can come and spend time with you and do that. Sorry, we are
So-
self-inviting
No,
ourselves.
that's all right. That's okay. So my compliments for all the great work you people are doing. But I just mentioned this to Guru. You are not scratching even the surface of India. What's your membership now?
We are about 1,900 members.
1,900.
The full-time members.
How many young people are there in India?
It's 52% of them below 25 years. That's about 500, 600 million people.
So please consider scale for making impact. It's absolutely essential. Unless you have scale, you cannot make an impact in India. I mean, of course, you'll make an impact on yourselves, but that's not good enough. What about the rest of India? How do you create an impact there? How do you make a difference? Please reach out and grow these numbers, order of magnitude. Don't add, multiply these numbers. We are multiplying our population, so I'm sure we can do that here in your membership. So I'm going to stop here by saying that also remember, climb mountains to see the world, not necessarily for the world only to see you. So do things for yourselves. Do the right things. And the rest of it follows automatically. Thank you and good luck. All the best.